All right, we will get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I will introduce myself in a moment as well as my guests, but I just wanted to introduce the webinar to get started. Today's webinar is on the Accelerated MBA for Business Graduates program here at the Smith School of Business at Queen's University. It is a one-year program that you can take while you work full-time in your home city, wherever you live. And today we not only are going to be talking about the program in general, but also we're going to have two current students on to speak to their perspective. Every couple of weeks, we have a webinar. Once a month, we do a general webinar like today, where we'll talk about the entirety of the program. And then on the off kind of I'd say every 2 weeks or so, we have a content webinar where we talk about something very specific. I believe our next one, which is in early July, is on financing your MBA. So please feel free to join for that, or at least register so you're sent the recording. But today's all about the program in general, specifically from the student perspective. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them using the Q&A button on the Zoom ribbon, and we will make sure to get to them. Before I get started, it's of course important that we acknowledge that Smith School of Business at Queen's University is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory, and Smith Toronto, which is where I am located today, is situated on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. We are grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. So today, as I said, we're just going to talk about the Accelerated MBA program in general, which includes the on-site sessions, the biweekly classes, the curriculum, team approach, and the support system you receive. And then, of course, at the end, I will answer any questions about the application process and fees. My name is Emily Saunders. I'm the director of the Accelerated MBA program. I've been here at Smith for 9 years now. I spent my kind of first half of my time here as the director of the Master of Finance program before moving on to my current role as the director of the Accelerated MBA. I'm also a graduate of the school. I completed my executive MBA about 5 years ago, and I am based out of our Smith Toronto location, which you can see there in the picture. Of course, a good part of our team is based out of Kingston, but I work out of our Toronto location. It's right downtown, about a block from Union Station, at Simcoe Place. So, my guests today, they will hopefully be very helpful to all of you in that they're currently living the program. They're both current students, which means they started in January, they finished in December, and then they'll graduate next May, because that's when Queen's runs their ceremonies. And there's a picture of their amazing team there at the Junon site, which we just had about a month ago. So, I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. I'll start with Lillian, and then we can pass it over to Ryan. So, Lillian, if you don't mind introducing yourself, your background, your current role, your team, like where you live and what team you're on, and why you decided to do it that way, and why you decided to take the Accelerated MBA. So I'll pass it over to you, Lillian.
Hi everyone, my name is Lillian. I am a financial analyst working at Transport Canada. I've been there for about 6 years, started as a student, and I've also just recently got my CPA designation in December last year, so a bit of a finance accounting background. And as for my team, I'm on Virtual East A with Ryan. And these are my teammates on the screen. And the reason I decided to do the virtual is because of the flexibility that it gives, and also being able to meet people from different places and work together. And the reason I decided to pursue the accelerated MBA was because I wanted to sort of do some personal development and gain some more leadership skills, and I guess just prepare myself for a senior management role in the future. And the accelerated MBA with like the timing of 1 year and everything worked out really well. So I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you, Lillian. Ryan, over to you.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Granger. I'm based in Las Vegas, so the reason I did the accelerator program was because I'm in Vegas. So logistically, it just made more sense that I was on a virtual East team. I'm a resident choreographer and dance captain for the RuPaul's Drag Race Live Vegas residency. I've been with World of Wonder now for about 6 years. So I'm doing the accelerated program. Um, Honestly, because I want to expand my knowledge. Obviously, you can only be in the current role that I'm in for a certain amount of time. So I wanted to see what different roles in leadership positions I could get within the entertainment world. And yeah, it's been an amazing experience so far. So I'll hand it back to Emily.
Amazing. Thank you both. And yes, we'll talk about the team-based approach, but this team is a virtual team. There's an option to take the program virtually or at one of our boardrooms. And so they range, most of them are in Ontario, with the exception of Ryan, who chose to be on an Eastern time zone as he works a lot of the evenings. But we'll talk about those options and what that looks like, and whether or not you would want to maybe take the virtual option like Lillian and Ryan, or join us in one of our boardrooms. So if you have any questions specifically for Lillian or Ryan, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But I'll be going to them throughout this presentation to get their perspective. So, at a high level, and this is what we're going to dive a little bit deeper into today, the AMBA, which is the short form we use, is a full-time degree that you can take while you continue to work full-time. So, it's a 12-month program. It starts every January and runs till December. Everyone's working full-time while they take the program. So, the courses are somewhat designed around your traditional work week. The curriculum is specifically meant for business undergrad. So, while, at most schools, there's a full-time MBA program where you can quit your job. In our case, move to Kingston for a year and really immerse yourself in the program. Then there's an executive MBA program that, is a year and a half, that you can take while you're working full time, but you have to cover all of the foundations like finance, accounting, etc. This program's kind of in between those two. It's only a year, but you can take it while you work full time. And that's because you're able to skip all the foundations like finance, accounting, economics, etc., because everyone has an undergrad in commerce. So you get credit for those courses you took in your undergrad, and we're able to skip to these courses at a more strategic or leadership level. There's 4 class days a month, so you have class every other week, all day Sunday and half day Monday, plus 3 immersive on-site sessions. So 3 times during the year, the entire cohort comes together. The first 2 are in Kingston, the last one in Toronto, and you really have an opportunity to spend a lot of time together, take class in person, meet your faculty, etc. We do operate using a team approach. All of our MBA programs do, and we'll kind of dive into what that means. And it's great that we have 2 members of the same team here today. And you do receive an amazing support system in not just a program team, but also multiple coaches. So let's spend some time talking about these on-site sessions, as to me, they really are the foundation of the program. Even though this is a while you work program, we really want the cohort to feel like they're a community, and that students build great connections when they're in this program. So as I mentioned, there's 3 a year. The first is in Kingston to kick off the program in January for 10 days. Then 1 week back in Kingston in June, which Ryan and Lillian just completed. And then the final one is a week in December to close out the program. The on-sites really have 3 intentions. One, we want you to feel connected to the Queens community. So, even if you're living in Las Vegas, for example, or, Halifax or Victoria, we have students in both of those cities this year. We want you to really feel like you are a Queens student and you're part of the community here. And so by bringing you to both our Kingston location as well as Smith Toronto, we hope that you walk away feeling kind of like a student of Queens. We, of course, want you to connect with your classmates and your teammates. That in-person time is so important, especially for the virtual teams, like what Ryan and Lillian are on. And so this is, condensed time where you're spending breakfast, lunch, dinner every evening, all day class together. And we want you to complete a significant portion of the curriculum. So the way that we finish this program in only a year is that you actually complete close to 50% of the curriculum during these on-sites, and then the rest of it's done during the year. So there's some pictures there. This is actually last year's class, but when you're on campus, we are, hoping that you can also get to know Kingston, do some experiences. We went on a Thousand Island boat cruise with this class this year, just to really feel like you get that whole campus and university, as well as Kingston feel. So I'm going to pass it over, and we'll start with Ryan this time. So Ryan's completed, and so has Lillian, completed 2 of the 3 on sites so far. So if you could speak to your experience, and feel free to be honest about the highs and the lows.
Yeah, no, it's been a whirlwind, I'll put it that much. Like the first January on-site, one of our professors always says it's like drinking water out of a fire hydrant, and it really feels like that when you're in there. So it's kind of overwhelming at first, especially for me. I'm not in like a traditional business setting, so putting the team together, getting our contracts. And a lot of the course content was somewhat familiar because I did my undergrad in business, but the whole structure of the program was amazingly put together, but it's still a lot to take in at once. The June onsite was so much more chill. It was like summer. We were going on boat rides. We were like walking. It was just a much more enjoyable experience. Because also you're kind of used to what the MBA has to offer and what you are expecting. So I think once you get through the January onsite, you can kind of hang out and kind of breathe a bit, but it is a lot as you begin the MBA journey. But I think it's better that way because it's better to start off intense and then like, oh, okay, can breathe after. But yeah, overall, it's been awesome. Me and Lillian, we can both say that we're super grateful with our teams. We feel very lucky that like our virtual team has been phenomenal. And then actually, Emily didn't mention, but one of our teammates, Simon, he's based in Bermuda. So I'm in Vegas, he's in Bermuda, and then the rest are in Canada. But we've made it work, and yeah, it's just been really nice, like being all together. So I'll pass it off to Lillian.
Yeah, I'm glad you corrected me. I forgot that Simon's in Bermuda. So you guys are really spread out actually for a team. You're not just in Ontario and the States, but also Bermuda. But yeah, Lillian, anything to add to that?
Yep, we're definitely the international team here. I'm based just like in the GT area, and initially I was like going back and forth between Toronto or virtual, and then once I met my team like in January at the onsite, immediately I was like, I'm gonna work with all of these people. I'm like, I feel really lucky, like as Ryan said, to be in the team that I'm in. And in terms of the onsite, the January one is definitely like you get right into it with the socializing and also with like all the coursework. But I feel like it sets like a good sort of tone to start the year off with because it does sort of get better after that. So basically, I feel like once you survive that first week and you get through it, then you're really well equipped to continue the program throughout the year. June was really fun. And I really appreciate that they had a lot of different social events for us to sort of bond over. So like in June, there was the boat cruise and there's also the formal dinner, which was really nice. And in January, they also had many activities such as the ice skating, going to a hockey game, and things like that that sort of lets you make like good memories with your teammates and with the class as a whole. So yeah, overall, I'd say positive experience with the on-site sessions. And the classes are also really nice, the ones that we have in person. The professors are really engaging and yeah, good experience.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I think, I mean, you both pointed this out, especially Ryan talked about the drinking from a fire hose or fire hydrant. January is a unique experience in that it's, the first time many people are back at school. It's the first time you're meeting these people. I mean, hard to believe Ryan and Lillian didn't even know each other the first day in January, and now they're incredibly close. And then June's like a reunion. Like everyone, in addition to it being a little bit more relaxed and everyone's in the school mindset, you're also coming back to a group of friends as opposed to strangers like in January. So I think and of course the weather, January in the winter is, or sorry, January in Kingston is not the best place to be, but we wanted to give you all the real Queens experience. Okay, amazing. So let's talk about then when you return home, you start your biweekly class. So you have classes every other week from home, and you have two options. You can take the program virtually, like Ryan and Lillian. And Lillian's a good example of someone who had the option. She could have taken it from the Toronto boardroom, but chose to take it virtually. Or you can take it from one of our boardrooms. So we have boardrooms in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Ottawa. The way it works is the professor is in Kingston in our studio, which you can see here, and they are projecting across the country to either people's living rooms if they're virtual or to one of the boardrooms. If you're in one of the boardrooms, you are sitting with a group of people who are also based out of that location. And so when you have breakout groups or breakout sessions, as opposed to, going into a Zoom room like Ryan and Lillian, you're in person and you're sitting around the table with one another. But the professor is not in any of these locations. The professor is in Kingston. So the professor is virtual to everyone. But all of these sessions are live, they're synchronous, it's very interactive. The technology you can see, for example, when someone puts up their hand in the bottom picture there, the professor can see who's asking the question, some information about them, what team they're on, etc. So you can see here, that's actually my virtual team. My team was virtual only because it was COVID, so we had no option to come into the Toronto boardroom. Or at the bottom there is one of the Toronto boardrooms. So this is what a typical class weekend looks like. You have 3 sessions throughout the weekend. So your first is the morning session. At 9:30 till 1:30 Eastern. So it's an early start for those on the West Coast and Ryan as well. Then you have an hour lunch break and you have a session from 2:30 till 6:30. And then the next morning you have class 9:30 to 1:30. And then you have the afternoon to either go back to work, maybe meet with your team, do schoolwork, whatever it is you choose to do. I find that majority of our students do use vacation time for the on-sites, and then the Monday mornings they work out with their manager or HR or whatever to try to maybe move the hours around and make up for it the rest of the week. So with that, I'm gonna go back to I'll start with you this time, Lillian, and if you could just talk about your week in the life, maybe a week you have class. What does it look like? When does your team meet? How do you divide up the time between work and school?
Sure. So I have a typical 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job. And so on the classes, on the weekends where we have class, the Sundays sort of just for class. And then the Mondays, I usually take the full day off. I've worked it out with work and I've been able to flex that time in. And so our team, we like to have the Monday afternoons to meet and work on like stuff for after class. But every team is different. And so like this time with the summer, we've transitioned to like different teams. And so my Monday afternoons, I usually go back to work now. But up until June, it was the full day Monday off. And then our other meetings would either be on Wednesday or Thursday evenings, usually from about 6 to 7, I'd say. It started out being longer meetings, and then we've just gone more efficient as time goes on. And so, in terms of studying, like just self-studying, I would usually do that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'd usually just sort of give myself some time on my own to do stuff that I like. So, on average, I'd say, depending on when an assignment is due, if there's something coming up, I'd spend between 5 and 10 hours a week studying, just depending on the week it is. And so I would say like there are times where it's intense, but also there's definitely enough time where I'm able to sort of socialize, meet with my friends, do my hobbies and things like that. So it's sort of a balancing act, and every team is different with when they meet because we do kind of work around everyone's schedule, and so you do kind of work that out when you're doing your on-site in January. Yeah.
Glenn, thank you, Lillian. Ryan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for if you're on the West Coast like myself, I chose to be on an East Coast team because of my work schedule. So my shows are actually at night. I have to be at work at 8:30. So I couldn't be on a West Coast team because that's when usually we would have meetings. So I requested to be on the East Coast team. So that way I usually have meetings around 3 p.m. my time, 3 to like Lillian said, an hour and a half. And it used to be a little bit longer, but now we're more efficient. And then in terms of projects and group project, there's a lot of team assignments. So we're lucky because I feel like our team, we're all really supportive in like the sections that we divvy up. So team projects tend to be very like collaborative. So you still have to do your part, but you still get the support from our project team leads and the seconds. And then basically individual projects that can take up some time as well. But like Lillian said, it really depends on when things are due. So you can kind of divvy up your time accordingly. But yeah, Lillian covered most of it.
No, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad you explained why you chose the virtual East because I'm sure some people were confused by that. For the most part, we try to put our teams within the same time zone as one another so that You're not having to, work if you're in Halifax, having to work with someone in Vancouver and find a team that works. So Ryan was an exception where he specifically asked for a specific, time zone team. But that is what our goal is to keep with everyone within 1 hour of one another when it comes to teams and time zones. Okay, and then this is the new curriculum. This is going to be a surprise to Ryan and Lillian as well, because we just did every 5 years we do a curriculum review. I mean, we're constantly making changes to our curriculum. This year, Ryan and Lillian are taking courses that haven't been offered before, but every 5 years we kind of start from ground, the beginning or from zero and build the curriculum from scratch, based on, our faculty, their research, what the corporates are saying, what our alumni and our students are saying. We do a lot of data collection. And so in this coming January, we are launching our brand new curriculum. There are a lot of core classes in here that Lillian and Ryan have taken, although some title changes, so you might not recognize it. But the major change is that we've added more electives. So next year, students will have 11 core classes and then 6 electives. So you get an option to choose a little bit more of the content that you'll be covering, unlike the current class. And that was based on feedback that we've received from our alumni for many years. So you can see that the curriculum's broken into 4 themes. The first theme is all about leadership. The second, of course, is, AI and analytics and digital innovation. Then strategic growth for good, which is kind of all of the courses that are around strategy, marketing, operations, etc. And then learning in action, which the core class there is a course that Ryan and Lillian have right now. It's basically a capstone project. You work with a client, a real client, to do a consulting project for them throughout the year. But we have added a new component, which is an international study trip, and that will be an elective. So it's optional, where you have the opportunity to go for a week and study at one of our international partner schools overseas. I do have a full recorded webinar on this new curriculum. If you go to our website under info sessions, you can watch it there. And I do much more of a deeper dive into each of these courses and the 4 themes. But I just wanted to highlight it here. Okay. So the team approach. There's your lovely team again, or some of you, at the June on-site on the boat cruise. So, as I mentioned, all of our MBA programs use the team approach. It's meant to mirror today's progressive workforce or workplace, I should say. And basically, you meet your team at the start of the program, the first day. You do a bunch of team building. You build a team charter. You set expectations with one another. You get acquainted personally and professionally, and they really become kind of like your family in the program. They are meant to be there to support you through the program. You're going through it together. It's a shared experience, and about 40% of your assignments are team-based. The idea is that if you have a really busy month, that your team can maybe step up for you in that month, and you can return the favor later. So it really is how many of our students manage such a demanding program while they're working full time, and that they have their team to support them through that process. You do receive a team coach. Every team has a team coach who is there to support you. You meet them the first week of the program. They help you build processes. They check in on your team meetings. They give you feedback. They try to teach you soft skills like how to give each other constructive feedback. And they're there really to support you and your team throughout the whole 12 months. So again, why don't we go back? I already forget who started first last time. We'll start with you, Ryan. If you could just chat about, I mean, you've already mentioned it a little bit, but I don't know if you have anything to add on the team approach for you so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really awesome experience. I think our team we're all very different and we come from different backgrounds. Like, we all have very different jobs, but we work really well together. Just to piggyback off of what you said, Emily, like, in the picture you see with the pink shirt, Zach, he works for the Canadian Paralympics. So in March, he had to go to Italy for like 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks. So, during that time, our team kind of like came together and like, hey, we'll pick up a little bit more of the load for these assignments so that when he comes back, he'll kind of like pick up his share. So there is like this flexibility that our team is really good at. Helping. One of our team members went to Europe for like 3.5 weeks, also with he has 2 kids, Neil. So when he went, it was the same thing. We kind of it picked up a little bit more slack. And then when Neil gets back, he would help out. So I think being like flexible with your team, because like obviously we have a life outside of this program. So I think I can't speak on behalf of every team, but our team is really good at like really supporting each other through like different life events. And yeah, I think that was pretty much my overall experience, but I'll pass it to Lillian. She can add.
Yeah, I think Ryan pretty much covered everything. Like in our team in particular, because we're virtual and because we're like from different places, and also like everyone's has like different situations. So for example, some people have kids, some people are planning for a wedding, things like that. We've been able to sort of balance that out really well. Just like being able to trust in your team and also being somebody that like your team can rely on. And also with everyone having different sort of career backgrounds, like some people specialize in marketing, I kind of specialize in finance accounting, and there's people doing operations. So just being able to pull different skills from like different team members has been really helpful with coming up with stuff for the projects and everything. And I think that's elevated our work a lot more. Like I know I wouldn't be able to put out work that high quality on my own compared to with a team. So I've really enjoyed working with this team and like working with people with like various different career backgrounds, various different stories. It's been really nice.
Yeah, this team is such a good example of the goal is that we try to make it as diverse, that each team as diverse as possible. So not just your backgrounds or where you're from or any of those things, but also, what your specialty is at work, what industry you're in. As much as possible, we do try to make these teams diverse. And I think your team is a great example, even just the two of you. And I mean, I'm speaking for you here, but I'm sure you would have never crossed paths outside of this program, right? You work in completely different industries, you live in different countries, you're in different time zones, you went to totally different undergraduate schools. But that's the goal, is that you're building this almost like hopefully lifelong board of directors for yourself that is completely different, but has all these different perspectives that you can go to personally or professionally for the rest of your life. And I see that with your team. I've loved watching your team from afar. So, the support system. So, we already mentioned the team coach. Every team has a team coach that is there to support you, your whole team, but also you as an individual. They do have one-on-one conversations to talk about the team dynamics and offer advice. You also have access to an executive coach that you can choose. We have a long list. These are contractors, they are actual executive coaches outside of Smith that we hire to support our students. And then we have our Career Advancement Center, or we call it CAC. Half of them are career coaches, half of them are corporate relationship managers that are building partnerships with a lot of our corporate partners to bring them in and post roles for our students, potentially host info sessions. But when it comes to the career coaches, you can book, I think we have a roster of 10 or so. You can book as many one-on-one meetings with them to just talk about your career in general or work on your resume, maybe your LinkedIn profile, maybe do a, prep for an interview or a salary negotiation. And they're there to support you for the duration of not just the program, but until you graduate. So from January till the following May. So I'll start with you this time, Lillian. Can you talk about your experience with any of these coaches?
Sure. So I've used all three of them. Team coach, you meet at the January onsite and they sort of follow you and your team throughout the, I guess, AMBA process. And so I think when we met our team coach, her name was Emily Bond. She gave us a lot of resources to sort of prep us and give us things to sort of think about when we were coming up with how we're going to work together as a team. And so things like, for example, how to come up with an agenda and how to come up with an effective project plan and sort of how to deal with, for example, people being away on leave or things like that. And so it just really prepared us for working together as a team, and we were able to fall back on some of the tips that we were given. So I think team coaching was really helpful in that sense. And another thing for me that I've used quite a bit is the career coaching. So like career coaching, one of the things I went for was to get some advice on refreshing my resume and also practicing for interviews. At the time, my company was going through like some competitions for like layoffs and things like that. So it was kind of just to maintain those skills and hopefully like accelerate them for when a position opens up and can sort of move up, things like that. Yeah. And Ryan, do you have Any more insights to add?
Yeah, I think the team coaching was really awesome for a virtual team because, when you're not in person, team meetings can become very chaotic if you don't have a structure. So like we really well, like it's kind of not it's funny, but we use like a thumbs up when everyone's in agreement, or when you're on your virtual team meetings, like so we're not everyone's talking over each other. You kind of raise your hand in the group chat, and that helps everyone. Like so every project we have a different lead. So whoever's leading the project, whoever is chairing that month, um, it just gives a little bit more structure. And I think it's for us, we've used it and it's been a really positive experience because it just feels like we're not in a meeting for 3 hours. We're in a meeting for an hour because we're just like trying to bang it out as fast as possible. And then for the career coaching, I've taken advantage. So I've met with Kelly. She's really awesome. I'm in this like, I'm still very comfortable in my job. Like I have a great job and I love what I do. But it's just opening up the different lenses of like where I could fall into if I decided to, pivot or stay within the entertainment world. And the cool thing from that is actually Kelly showed me the network of Queens alumni. So I didn't even know that there was some people that lived in Vegas that graduated from Queens. I don't know if it was the undergrad or the master's, but it's just cool to find different connections, especially in the United States, where I can maybe connect with people and just honestly just connect as humans. It doesn't even have to be to like get something. It's just connecting with someone who's gone through the program and just building your network of people because there's seems to be a really nice alumni and everyone seems super friendly from the people that I've met so far. But yeah, I need to take advantage of executive coaching. I'll touch
You
base
still
with
have lots of time. I
Lillian.
know it's hard when you're balancing everything, but you have until May of next year when you graduate. So once classes wrap up in December, I find a lot of our AMBAs, they leverage those services from January till May. So don't worry, Ryan, you still have lots of time. And I love that story about the Vegas alumni. I mean, of course, it's something that I always try to note is that a huge benefit of taking any of these programs is the Queen's Alumni Network is incredibly loyal and helpful. And so you're immediately kind of welcomed into that community. Okay, so I'm going to quickly spend some time talking about the fees in the application process, and then I'll go back to Lillian and Ryan for one more question. Again, feel free to drop any questions. And I saw there were already a couple in there that Carrie, our application advisor, have got to. So the fees. The fee is a one-year fee, or the entire program is 83,000, just over $600. And that is for whether you're international or domestic. It is an all-inclusive fee. So it includes not just your tuition, but it includes books, case studies, learning materials, all the meals and accommodations at those on-sites in Toronto and Kingston. So all of that is booked for you. You just have to get to Kingston and Toronto. We do have Dean's Entrance scholarships that everyone is automatically considered for. And then there are a series of other scholarships you can apply for. So we have a couple up here. We have the Forte Foundation Scholarship for women leaders, scholarships for Black and Indigenous students. And we also have something called the Employer Sponsorship Program, where if your firm will sponsor you, we will match up to $10,000. But like I said, I'll go into all of this in a lot more detail in our next webinar. I believe it's on July 9th, which is around financing your MBA. To get into the program, what we ask is a minimum of 2 years of work experience. I find on average our students have 6 years of work experience, but you only need two. You, of course, need an undergraduate degree in business because that's the whole point of this program. And we need you to have reasonable grades and the completion of 9 prerequisites, which are accounting, finance, macro and microeconomics, statistics, marketing, operations, OB, and strategy. You need to eventually submit a resume, cover letter, two professional references, transcripts, and then the last step is an interview with myself. So if you are interested in applying, you don't need to complete a perfect final application and submit it all at once. You can just submit what we call a preliminary application. So you go to our homepage, you click apply now, and a preliminary application is basically some information about yourself, a resume, and an unofficial transcript to get started. Then Carrie, who's the one helping answer questions today on the webinar, will reach out to you in a matter of days and walk you through the rest of the application process. So she will do an initial evaluation to make sure you have the work experience and the prerequisites. And assuming you do, she'll then walk you through how to complete the rest of your application. And you have time to do that. There isn't any rush. There's no obligation at that point, and there's no cost to apply. We work on a rolling admissions basis, which means there's no deadline. We kind of accept applicants as they come in, but of course, at some point we do become full, and that's when we stop accepting applications, particularly in certain locations. Like last year in Calgary, we became full in the fall. In I think October. So I always say, you still have time. It's only June, but I still always suggest you get that preliminary application started sooner rather than later. And there is a QR code there. If instead of applying, you want to just ask some questions, then one of our recruitment advisors will reach out to you if you fill in the form. So that's everything I wanted to cover. So to wrap up today, I always like to ask my guests the same question, which is, basically your one piece of advice. It could be either for students or applicants or someone starting the program. Now, you're 6 months in, they're halfway through, I think a little bit over halfway through. And based on what you know so far, Ryan and Lillian, and again, maybe we'll start with Lillian. What's your biggest piece of advice?
Sure. I think my biggest piece of advice would be to really put yourself out there. Like, for example, me, I'm more of like, I guess, on the shyer, introverted side. But especially for the onsite, I really try to talk to as many people as I can and go to as many social activities as I could. And I think that really made my experience a lot more enjoyable, and it kind of helped to build my confidence and that kind of thing. And I think the network at Smith is also really, really good. So I think taking advantage of that and like reaching out to people is probably my top tip. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. When people ask me, that's one of the first things I say is, of course, the credentials important in the curriculum, but for me, connections are the number one thing I took away from the experience. And so really putting yourself out there, particularly during those on sites, is how you can build those connections. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I think of two. The first one is going into the program. There's like obviously it's an MBA, so there's a high level of, professionalism and you want good grades and all that. But our group came together and was like, okay, what do we want out of this program? I think everyone who's spending this much amount of money and who's in the program, you want an overall experience to be really enjoyable. So I think that's something that to keep in the like it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but you also want to like enjoy the whole experience and really take up as much as you can because I think if you get caught up in the schoolwork, it can be a little overwhelming at times. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And especially for me, I think going into the program, I told my team I was obviously a little like insecure because, I'm in such a different industry. I'm very confident. I'm like the extrovert. So that's why me and Lillian, it's so funny. Because we're besties at the program. But like, you know, um, for me, it was about like, okay, I feel very confident in what I do in the entertainment world, but will I fit into a program with like, accountants, bankers, and like people from such different walks of life? So I think if you have a good work ethic and if you're willing to learn, I think the program can be really beneficial to you. And I think have felt super welcomed as someone that maybe felt like an outsider at first. I'm friends with so many people in the program, and I just think it's a really cool way to meet so many different people, like Emily said, from different backgrounds and workplaces. So, yeah, I think just no matter where you're from, I think everyone can take so much from this program. So, highly recommend.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Great advice. And I love how both of you talked about the connection piece. I think that is such an important part and why Queens really at the end of the day. I mean, these days the curriculum's somewhat similar at most of the MBAs. So you really have to, it's really about the people and the fit and the experience that you have to consider when making this really big decision. And so I think what you both spoke to, really emphasizes that. Someone did ask, can you elaborate on the resources available to develop networks and connections? It's a great question. Outside of the classroom, of course, because I think naturally our class becomes incredibly close just from spending all day together every day during these on sites. And then when they return home, they're continuing to connect virtually during class. But outside of that, well, we host, of course, multiple alumni events a year. So Smith visits um, Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa, and Toronto. And this year we'll start doing Montreal as well, twice a year to host Smith Engage, where we invite all of our master's and MBA alum to a panel discussion and networking event through our partnership with Deloitte. So Deloitte sponsors it and hosts it for us. And so it's a real opportunity to connect with not just the alumni from your class, but also from across all the MBA programs and all the different years. And then the Accelerated MBA program does host an AMBA specific alumni event in Toronto every December during our December onsite. So when these guys come back to the final onsite, we host a big event one of those evenings and host all of our GTA alum, as of course a good percentage of our students are from the GTA. Beyond that, my guess is the resource that Ryan used when he met with the career coaches. We do have something called Smith Connect, where we have all of our alum who are interested in connecting with current students and other alum put their information into this alumni system and basically express how they'd like to stay involved. So would they just like to have coffee chats with people? Would they like to mentor people? Would they just like to meet people? And so you can actually go into Smith Connect as a student, identify like location, industry, role, and find those alumni that have put their hand up to connect with you. So there's some formal ways, and then there's also informal. I find that a lot of our students just find Smith alum on LinkedIn and reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm a fellow Smith or a Queens alum or a student," and 9 times out of 10, people will get back to you because it is such a loyal and dedicated community. So great questions, everyone. And it looks like Carrie did a great job answering the rest of the questions. So I will let everyone get back to their day, but I just wanted to thank Ryan and Lillian. It was so nice. I got to spend a lot of time with them in person at early June, but to see them again, and I can't wait to see you in December. But appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedules, and appreciate everyone for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a great Wednesday and go Canada in the soccer game this afternoon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.